Welcome to Graduate Support in the Virtual Library. I'm so excited to welcome Samantha Sinanan, who is going to be giving you some incredible tips and techniques tonight. So without further ado, Samantha, why don't you take it away?
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much for inviting the library to participate in this webinar series. We're thrilled to be a part of it. And thanks to all of you for taking time out of your day to be here. I'm really excited to share some stuff about the library with you. So let's get started. The title of today's presentation is Graduate Support in the Virtual Library, presented by myself, Samantha Sinanan, and I am the manager of technical services and library instruction for both the Aspen and US University libraries. Oh, just trying to advance my slide. There we go. So I thought I'd just do a quick introduction. I'm one of a team of virtual librarians that works here at the Aspen and USU community. And we are here to help you build your information literacy skills. So we're very passionate about helping students acquire those research skills that they can carry with them across their academic careers and into the world beyond academia. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us anytime. That's probably one of the best ways that we can develop a relationship and that the librarians can help you with your specific questions around your research topics. The best thing to do is reach out to us on our virtual reference desks. So for Aspen students, that would be library@aspen.edu. And for USU students, that would be ask the librarian at usuniversity.edu. So these virtual reference emails are monitored 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Don't be shy. We love to hear from you. So please reach out anytime. And we're here to help you learn how to use the library and to really develop those research skills. So in this photo here, I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of our team. Myself, I'm on the far right, and then we have Dr. Melody Hainsworth. She's on the far left. She's our library director. Right in front of her, we have Sarah Stang, who is our data and analytics specialist. And next to her, we have Sherry Rouser, who is the head of reference and user experience. So when you email us on the virtual reference desk, you may get any one of our team. And we're all well versed in the programs at both Aspen and USU. So we're all happy to help you. So I'll just give you an overview of what we're going to cover today. And as Heather mentioned, we can have some time for questions at the end, or we can always continue the conversation over email afterwards. If you think of something after the presentation's over, please just drop us a line and we can continue the conversation. So first of all, today we'll start off with just a refresher on where the library databases are and what are your best bets for doing doctoral level research. And then we'll dig a little bit into how to limit to scholarly journal articles and also how to limit to dissertations and theses, because these two types of sources are going to be really important for your research. After that, we will launch into a bit of a discussion about literature reviews, and I can give you some tips and remind you of where to find some instruction around literature reviews in the library. And that will lead us into a discussion on finding research instruments. And before I let you go today, I will remind you where the Digital Repository is in the Aspen Library. So this is like a repository of past graduate work completed by Aspen students. So we're quite excited about that. And finally, I'll conclude with a little bit about how to get APA help. All right, so without further ado, let's launch into our discussion about the library databases. So when you navigate to the library in the learning management system, you'll see that there is a table of contents on the left side of the page. And that's where all the different sections of the library are linked. So one of the most important, if not the most important section, is the A to Z list of databases. So that's where you'll find links to all of our licensed library resources. And it's really important to access the library databases from within this library page from the A to Z list. If you're out on Google and you're looking at ProQuest Central or EBSCO, there's no way of it recognizing you as an Aspen or USU student. So you have to access the databases from the library page. So the three databases that I've pulled out here as your best bets are ProQuest Central, Academic Search Premier, and CINAHL. So I'll just talk a little bit about each of these. ProQuest Central is our biggest collection. It is actually a collection of 30 plus databases, so it's very comprehensive. It covers most academic subject areas. It has a really strong healthcare focus, so it's very well used by nursing students. It also has a strong business focus as well as education. So this one will be a great place to start your research for students in any program. One of the important things to remember about ProQuest Central is that it includes not only scholarly journal articles, but it also includes dissertations and theses. And these are going to be really important for you when you're doing your literature reviews. And we'll talk about that in more depth a little bit later. So there you have it, ProQuest Central. That's kind of our number one best bets database. Great for students in any program. Next on the list, we have Academic Search Premier. And that, again, is a multidisciplinary database, quite well used and well loved, covers most academic subject areas. And of importance to you is the fact that it includes scholarly journal articles. So there are no dissertations and theses in this database, but there are journal articles and other resources, like there are, I believe, a few videos, images, trade publications, etc. And finally, of importance to the nursing students, those of you in the DNP program, is CINAHL with full text. And I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with this one. So this is a nursing and healthcare specific database. And one of the really neat things in this database is there's healthcare specific limiters, and those allow you to tailor your search in a specific way. So for example, if you're looking for evidence-based research, there's a way that you can limit to that. So that's one of the big advantages to using CINAHL with full text. It is a smaller collection than ProQuest Central, so we do still recommend starting with ProQuest Central, but of course you're going to want to conduct research in here as well. All right, so now that we've covered our best bets, I thought I'd talk a little bit about how to limit to scholarly journal articles, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how to limit to dissertations and theses. We often get a lot of questions on the reference desk about how to limit to scholarly or peer-reviewed articles. So here, I'll talk a little bit about ProQuest Central. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the advanced search page and the fact that there is a peer-reviewed box on the advanced search page. So you want to check that box, and then your results will be limited to those that are published in peer-reviewed journals. And again, if you want to really tailor your search and make sure you're only getting those scholarly journal articles, on the results page in ProQuest, you'll see on the left side of the page, there are a number of ways in which you can limit your results. One of them is source type, and it will break down the types of results for you, and you can click on any of those and just get that source type. So there is a source type that's called scholarly journals. So you can further limit by that. Sometimes in peer-reviewed journals, there will be articles that aren't considered scholarly, like there might be editorials or opinion pieces or some sort of summary or review or supplementary article. So that's why there's the distinction. But generally, if you have that peer-reviewed box checked, you're in good shape. Similarly, in EBSCO, there's a peer-reviewed box. In most databases, there is a peer-reviewed box, so that's always something you want to look for. In CINAHL, we have another box that you can check for research article to really, really narrow down and tailor that search. So these are both on the advanced search page in CINAHL. All right, so now that I've told you all about checking the peer-reviewed box, now I'm going to tell you how to limit to dissertations and theses. And this will be just in ProQuest Central because that is our one database in the library that includes dissertations and theses. So in order to include those in your search, you'll actually want to uncheck the peer-reviewed box. Once the peer-reviewed box is checked, it will filter out those dissertations and theses because technically they're not published in peer-reviewed journals. So that's an important thing to remember. You will get all sorts of other sources like magazines, news articles, if you uncheck this box. So if you really want to just limit your search to dissertations and theses, there's a box called source type on the advanced search page, like you can see in my screenshot here. And there's an option for dissertations and theses, so you can check that. But, if you're doing a literature review in a topic and you want to just get like a general sense of what's out there on the topic, you don't necessarily have to start by limiting it this way. You can just uncheck that peer-reviewed box, and then you can just focus on either the scholarly journals or the dissertations. So I think this is a good time to remind everyone that research is an iterative process, meaning that you likely won't get that one magic article on the first try, that it really is a process that's ongoing, So you can do a few searches and then perhaps the results from your initial search will then inform your subsequent searches. Maybe you try different combinations of keywords and phrases. Maybe if you have a certain keyword that's not giving you good results, you try and think of a synonym. So, it's an iterative process. So, and also using the limiters, those will be different things that you can experiment with and just see how your results differ. But it's good to be armed with this information so that you know how to tailor your search and narrow down. We always suggest starting broadly to get a sense of what's out there on your topic and then use some of these limiters to narrow down. So that nicely takes us into the next section of the presentation, which is a discussion on literature reviews. And so I know that all of you in doctoral programs will be doing probably a variety of literature reviews. We do get a lot of questions on the reference desk about literature reviews. So I thought I'd just give you a little refresher. I'm sure you all know a literature review allows you to learn about the topic in preparation for your research. And in that process, you're also reviewing writings by other researchers on your chosen topic. So you can think about a literature review as the foundation on which you are going to build your research. You might be looking for gaps. You might be looking for what's been done and what hasn't been done. So you may be wondering what to include in your literature review. The two most important source types, as I mentioned earlier, are scholarly journal articles reporting on original research, and these will be published in peer-reviewed journals, as well as dissertations and theses. And you will want to look both inside the library and outside of the library. You're going to want to be as comprehensive as possible in your literature review search. So you can start in the library and start in some of those best bet databases that we talked about. But then you will want to go outside of the library. If you have access to any resources through your work, you can check those. There are also some what we call open access sites where you can get access to free full text content. And we do have quite a bit of information about that in the library, but you can reach out to us and we can point you in those directions. So what to exclude from your literature review? That would be source types like popular magazines, trade publications, opinion pieces, editorials, you really want to limit your searches to those scholarly research articles and the dissertations and theses. We do have a literature review guide in the library that talks about some of these topics in more depth and includes some great links to resources. So on the table of contents in the library, on the left side of the page, you'll notice a section called Research Guides. So you can find our literature review guide there, as well as a number of other research guides on various topics. So those are in PDF format, so you can download them, take a look, and hopefully there will be some useful information for you in there. So I'll just quickly review the components of a research article. Most research articles are split into sections. Now, this isn't an exact formula. Not every research article is going to have the exact same headings, but this gives you a general idea of how research articles are structured. So usually they'll start with an abstract, and that's a synopsis or summary. It's great to view the abstracts when you're doing your searches. You likely don't have time to be reading all the articles in their entirety. So it's a great idea to just read the abstract, see if it's relevant to you. If it is, save it for later. If not, move on. So in addition to the abstract, there will be the research question or hypothesis, who is involved. So both the who is being studied and who is doing the studying. There will be the all-important methodology section or research instrument. And then once that's discussed, there will be results and a discussion, and of course, a reference list. There's often a literature review in a research article as well. Not always, but often. And again, this isn't an exact formula, but this gives you an idea of what you can expect in a literature review article, in a research article. And usually there'll be a table of contents for you to identify these sections. And so a dissertation or thesis is organized in a similar way, but not quite the same, because the purpose is a little bit different. So oftentimes a dissertation or thesis will have quite a robust introduction section that you don't generally find in scholarly research articles. And a literature review will show up in almost every dissertation or thesis. And then, of course, you'll also have the methods or methodology section that talks about your research instrument. And again, there will be the results, discussion, conclusion, and reference list. So again, it's not exhaustive, and it's not going to be exactly like this in every dissertation you look at, but this gives you a general idea of what to expect. And again, you can look at the table of contents to identify these components. So here are a few sites that we have pulled together where you can find dissertations and theses outside of the library. And dissertation.com is one of them. Open access theses and dissertations is another. ProQuest Dissertations and Theses Open, and the Social Science Research Network. There are other sites as well, but we've found these ones to be particularly useful. And of course, not everything is going to be free and full text, but these ones do contain some content that is free and full text. So I believe this PowerPoint presentation will be made available to you after the presentation. And I'm also going to post it in the library in the video tutorials section. So you will have access to these links if you forget them. All right, let's shift gears and launch into a bit of a discussion about research instruments. We do get a lot of questions about research instruments, and this can be a tricky area of research. It's very important, and yeah, there's several steps to finding and gaining permission for using a research instrument. So I'll just give you a refresher on what is a research instrument. It's any tool, device, or other means by which researchers assess or gather data about study participants. So examples include tests, interviews, questionnaires, surveys, rating scales, and reaction time apparatus. So if you're doing a search in the library for research instruments, it may not always be called a research instrument. It could be called a tool or a survey or a research method. So just keep in mind that you're looking broadly for an instrument or tool that is used to gather data. In the library, we have a collection called ProQuest eBook Central, and this collection does have a lot of titles on research design. And some of these titles do go into a bit of detail about research instruments, and they do help provide some instruction around how to set up your research. A lot of these titles, most of them, in fact, are healthcare related. So this will be most relevant to UDMP students, but the concepts can be applied in other disciplines. So I've just pulled a few titles of interest out here, including getting started in health research, improving health through nursing research, writing research proposals in the health sciences. So if you're interested, take a look through some of these titles or go into ProQuest eBook Central and do a search on research design and cruise through some of those titles for some help on getting organized with your research. So when students are looking for research instruments, what we usually recommend is to do some research on your topic and to take a look at some articles of interest and take a look at what methods and research tools have been used in past articles. So this is often a really great way of getting a sense of what kind of tools exist and what they've been used for. Some tools are quite well known and have been used more than others. So you can usually find out what research tool has been used by looking at the methods or methodology section of the article or the dissertation, and you can find the information there. One really important thing to note is that if you find a research instrument that you'd like to use, you must obtain permission from the owner. So this sometimes can feel a little bit daunting, understandably, but it's very, very important. You cannot use a research instrument without permission. So you can track down the owner of a research instrument. First of all, you'll want to find out who it is. So if it's an original research article using an originally designed tool, you can contact the author of the article, the author or authors. If the article is using an instrument that has been developed by someone else, that will be noted in the article. So you can do a search for the owner of the research instrument and see if you can locate them at a university. Most of these folks will be teaching or have taught at universities, so that's a really great way of tracking them down. Also, you can look on social media profiles like LinkedIn. And if you're really stuck, you can contact the journal in which the article is published and see if they can help point you in the right direction. So I thought I would just include a screenshot here. This article that I've included in my screenshot has a really clearly broken down set of headings here. So you can see there's a heading in the article that says research methods and one that says research instruments. Not all articles are so clearly and cleanly broken down. So just take a look in whatever article you're looking at. There should be some sort of heading that indicates that it's a discussion about the methods. You can always do a Control F function and you can search for the word tool or survey or research instrument and it will show up or it will tell you where it shows up in the article. And if you're stuck and you're struggling, you can always contact us on the reference desk and we can help you out. All right. Well, that concludes the meaty part of the discussion. And I know I've thrown a lot of information at you here. I don't expect you to retain all of it. Really, it's a high level overview of how the library can help you with your research. But when you're getting into the details, you'll want to contact us on the reference desk for help. So before I let you go, though, I've got a few more things I'd like to talk about. And one of those is the digital repository. And as I mentioned earlier, this is something that we've been building in the Aspen library over the last few months. So this is a collection of past graduate work that's been completed by Aspen students. So for the time being, this digital repository only exists in the Aspen library. It's not yet available in the USU library. But over here at Aspen, again, it's linked under the table of contents on the left side of the page. It's called Digital Repository, and it's divided into 3 sections. So that would be School of Business and Technology, Education, and then the Nursing and Healthcare dissertations. So, and then they're organized in alphabetical order within each section. So if you once you all have completed your dissertations, you may be interested in having yours submitted. So you can reach out to your advisor on that. And then there is a process to go through in order to get your dissertation submitted and approved and then posted in the library. So we are building this section all the time. So be sure to check this as well in your research, because there's lots of great work that's been done by past Aspen students. All right. So one other topic that we get a lot of questions about is APA help. So just a reminder here that your virtual librarians are not able to proofread or edit citations, but we can point you in the direction of resources that will help you create your citations both in text and in your reference list. So there are a lot of tools out there that automatically generate citations, and we all use them. In the databases, you can generate a citation. There are other resources online that will automatically generate citations, but it's always important to double check anything that's computer generated against an example, because these computer generated citations often contain errors, whether they be errors with like punctuation, grammar, maybe something like italicization or spacing, formatting. It's impossible to eliminate that. So it's always a really good idea to check against an example. We do subscribe to a resource called RefWorks at both Aspen and USU. And RefWorks, you may have heard of it. You may have already signed up for it. It is a citation management tool. So it allows you to collect references from articles that you've looked at. You can actually export like the title of the article, all the citation information and the abstract. You can export that into RefWorks. You can organize that in folders. You can share it with your colleagues, and you can also create reference lists. But again, you will want to check those against an example. So if you haven't already set up a RefWorks account, we encourage you to do so. The RefWorks is listed on the library page in the A to Z list of databases, and there are some instructions on how to set up an account. And in the video tutorials section of the library, there is some additional support for RefWorks. So these are a few of our favorite writing and citation tools that are available online. Just a quick note that it is recommended for students to pick up their own personal copy of the APA 7 guide. Unfortunately, that is not available in electronic format for libraries, so we don't have a copy of it in the library. But we do have a couple of supporting resources that we really love to use. One of those is the APA style blog. It's awesome. It's been around for a long time. They cover a lot of frequently asked questions. They break down some of the really tricky citation issues that are common amongst folks. So I certainly recommend for you to take a look at the APA style blog. Also, there's Grammarly. You can set up a free account to Grammarly. And again, you can put your research through Grammarly, but you'll also want to make sure that you check it yourself. Grammarly is great for helping you out, but it doesn't remove the human element of having to review your work. probably our favorite resource for writing and citation is the OWL at Purdue. You may have heard of it or seen it. It's a super comprehensive site that contains formatting and style guides for all of the citation styles. So if you would be interested in the APA one. And there's tons of examples on how to cite different kinds of sources. So this is a great place to go to check your citations against an example. There's also sample papers, PowerPoint presentations. It's super comprehensive. It's great. We definitely recommend checking it out. As well, if you want to remember these resources or a few others, visit the APA help section in the library. And again, that will be linked under the table of contents on the left side of the page. So that brings us to the end of the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you very much for hanging in and for listening and for your time. Please contact us anytime for assistance. Again, Aspen students can contact us at library@aspen.edu. And USU students can contact us at askthelibrarian@usuniversity.edu. And help is available 7 days a week. So thank you so much, all of you. Thank you again to Heather for organizing this webinar series. It's excellent, and we're so happy to be part of it. I will just briefly mention the upcoming presentation that will be happening on June 15th, which is a very related topic, Master the Basics of APA 7, and that's with Dr. Andrea Novak.
Samantha, thank you so much. You've received a number of comments in the chat box about how helpful this was. There's a comment in there about the librarians are so helpful. Please, please use this valuable resource. We did get a question, Samantha, about the digital repository and how far back does that go?
That's a really good question. We started building the digital repository last year. So I'd have to double check. I'd have to double check on the submissions, how far back they go. But let me check on that and get back to you.
It's an archive that's currently being built. My recommendation is when you are working on either your doctoral project or your dissertation, ask your chair if they can send you an example that would be relevant to your project, right? They've have experience, they've got these in their archives, and they know which ones may be a better example for you to follow than others. So rely on your chair to be helpful there as well. One of the other questions we got here was related to, the recording. Yes. If you are here, that means you registered. And in a couple of weeks, when I have the recording available on the YouTube channel, you will be getting an email from me with the link. I'll attach the PowerPoint so you'll have the links that Samantha was sharing. And I will also be reminding you about June's webinar on APA. You definitely do not want to miss that one. We did get a question about outside articles that aren't in the library. And this is such an important question, Samantha. What tips or techniques do you have to share?
This is a really good question. And before I answer that, though, I just quickly checked the digital repository, and the oldest one we have there is from 2018. And as Heather mentioned, we're continuing to build that. So, important question. How do we get articles that are not in the library? Well, the first thing to do would be to check if you have access to resources that are not through Aspen, like if you have a work library or if you have a membership or if you're a part of any other library system, either through your work or through personal means or through a partner or whatever. Look in any resources that you have access to. You can do a search for articles that aren't in the library. It's always a good idea to check something like Google Scholar, because you will from time to time find free open access versions of articles you're looking for. If you don't find them there, there is a resource called worldcat.org, and I can type that into the chat box. Worldcat.org. And it's a huge catalog of the holdings of libraries all across, I believe it's North America, but it might even be broader than that. So this allows you to take a look for an item and see if it's in a library in your area. So you can do a search. For example, say you're looking for an article in the Journal of Professional Nursing. You do a search for Journal of Professional Nursing, you find it, you locate it, and then there's going to be an option for you to add your zip code. And if you add your zip code, it'll show you if there's a library in your area that carries that. So then the next step would be to contact that library and see if you're able to access it.
Thank you, Samantha. And I love that you brought up going to multiple libraries, because I think sometimes, here we are as students, we've been trekking through high school, undergrad, master's, and maybe we just go to one database at any given time. Maybe we're just finding 8 to 20 articles to write a research paper. And then you get to the dissertation and the doctoral project, and your committee's saying, this doesn't look comprehensive. There's stones that you haven't turned over. And there really is a critical need to use multiple databases. And if you have access to other libraries, and often students have access to the library where they got a bachelor's degree or a master's degree.
Exactly. Yeah, there are alumni memberships for library systems that you've been a part of in the past.
And sometimes what you might find is a group of people who are really the key players in your area. And Samantha mentioned LinkedIn, other social media. You may reach out to them and ask them, do they have any pre-press articles or conference proceedings? Because there's a lag time between when research is completed and it's published in peer-reviewed journals. And so again, one of your tasks as a doctoral student is to be able to provide evidence to your committee that you've got your finger on the pulse in the field. So sometimes reaching out to these people that are on the forefront of the research that's being done in your field, you want to create a relationship with them and ask them if they have something that's up and coming or currently in print that's going to be out, so that you've got the most recent information. We've got a question about the next session with Dr. Novak. It is June 15th at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And here's an easy way to remember when these webinars are. They are always the third Wednesday of every month. So you can just go through your calendar, third Wednesday every month, 4 p.m. Pacific time. We would love to see you here. Dr. Dunn, I see that you unmuted. Did you have something you'd like to share?
As always, I'm never very quiet. So thank you, Samantha. This is excellent. Being a chair for quite some time, I have had a lot of students who have found great success when they were struggling when I just said contact the library. So
great.
I can validate that the library is a great source and very helpful. One example for the people that are listening, one of my students, in fact, he's about to graduate, was unable to get a free article, and he was perturbed by that. And I ranted and raved about how I hate when people charge money for their articles and all this stuff. And then he wrote back and said, well, no real problem. I wrote the library, and the next morning it was in my inbox free. So somebody in the library was able to find the article he was looking for and get it to him for free. So it just was the kind of above and beyond. But my question is, when you log through our library, even though students don't all have Aspen email addresses, they still have all the rights and so forth to articles because you're logging in through the library.
That's right.
So if a student is having trouble accessing a library, I guess it's fair for me to ask, first of all, did you go in through the library, right?
Yes, exactly. And but that's a question that we often get on the reference desk. Is a student will say, this is asking me for a username and password. How do I access this? So with whatever credentials you have for accessing the learning management system, like where you access your courses, it's the same credentials. And once you log in to D2L, you'll see the library link on the top navigation there. So you click on library, and then you'll be able to navigate to the content. So yes, it is important to access it through the library.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
I just want to reinforce what Dr. Dunn shared. Librarians are almost like magicians to me because they are trained to locate information. And it's this beautiful skill that is so important for you to tap into when you're working on your doctoral project or your dissertation. So just because you've probably been going to the library since you were 5 years old, don't hesitate to use this resource and draw on their skill set so that you can have that comprehensive chapter 2 and keep on trucking forward as you're working on your capstone project.
Contact us anytime.
We have a question here about, do you recommend searching for articles and dissertations in the same places, in the same databases?
Yes. Well, it depends. So when you're doing your research in the library, so as I mentioned in the presentation, ProQuest Central, which is the biggest database, and you've actually probably heard me talk about this in our interactions on the reference desk, that's the place to start. And that's where you can find both scholarly journal articles and dissertations and theses. So that would be kind of like your number one database to check. The other databases in the library, like the EBSCO databases, the ebook collection, those don't contain dissertations and theses. At this point in time, it's just ProQuest Central. And then there are some places where you can look online and there will be access to free what we call open access dissertations and theses. And if you want to reach out to us, we can give you some links to check out for that.
And before we wrap up, Samantha, I just wanted to say the other thing I really loved that you brought up was locating the tools. And we had some interaction going on in the chat about that. As a doctoral student who is building on the work of others, you're going to want to find tools that have established psychometric properties. And I think that's one of the pitfalls I see a lot of students just think, oh, well, I'll just make up my own. But in the end, you end up really lengthening your time to completion because when you can find a tool that's already been used and has these established psychometric properties, it's almost like you get to fast forward a little bit, right? You don't have to prove that this measure is a reliable and valid way to assess the constructs that you're looking for. And so asking for permission, you brought up some fields like psychology, if you're looking for measures that are in more psychological type constructs and variables, often in the article, there will be a footnote that will say this is publicly available and free for, distribution, but this is what we want you to do. We want you to cite it this way in your reference section. And if you're going to make any modifications, you need to let us know first, right? So just be meticulous when you're reading the articles, look for things like that and do what you can. If you're conducting the quantitative research where you want to give a survey or questionnaire to find things that already exist. And yes, there's some comments in the chat box saying, yes, this is how you do it because you don't want to recreate the wheel. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands of researchers who have come before you in your field of study who have put a lot of hard work in creating measures. You want to use those.
And I'll just add a little follow-up to that. What you can do is if there is like a well-established tool that you're interested in, you could go into one of the databases like ProQuest Central and you could do a search just for the name of that tool. And then what you'll get in your results list is a list of articles that have either used that tool or have some mention of that tool or have it in the reference list. So that's a great way to dig a little bit deeper if there's a specific tool that you're interested in.
That's great feedback. So I just want to thank everyone again for coming. Please make sure that you are subscribing to the YouTube channel. And if social media is your thing, follow either Aspen or USU because that is how we are getting the word out when we host events like this that you will not want to miss. And thanks again, Samantha, for sharing your expertise with us this evening. We enjoyed your presentation so much.
Thank you very much for having me. And I hope that we'll chat with you all soon.